Hello, everybody. Hi, welcome to my live feed. How's everybody doing today? We have a chat. You can put in the chat where you're tuned in and say hello. I'm in Michigan. Yeah, so it's Tuesday. It's approximately 3 o'clock. So that means I'm going to go live on Facebook and YouTube. And I'm going to teach you how to make one of my recipes. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make a springtime red lentil soup featuring asparagus, red lentils, obviously, as the name implies. I've got some dandelion greens. I have fresh grated turmeric and corn. So I am Chef Val. If this is the first time that you've seen me, I have been teaching healthy cooking classes for 26 years. Now, all my recipes are vegan. All of them are whole foods, plant-based. I don't use refined or processed ingredients. And my background is in macrobiotic cooking. I am the author of 6 cookbooks, and this recipe is in my first cookbook called Perceptions in Healthy Cooking. This is the revised edition. It came out a few years ago. All my cookbooks are on my website, macroval.com. And just to amuse you, let me show you what the Perceptions in Healthy Cooking looked like when it first came out 20 years ago. And this cookbook is very beat up because this is my copy that I have used for over 20 years, and I've put notes in it and I've changed the recipes. So it used to look like this, Perceptions in Healthy Cooking, right? And then I revised it a few years ago. Now it looks like this. And I have the red lentil soup in here. And today I'm going to tweak it a little bit. I'm going to make some changes because I want to add asparagus to it because I love asparagus, and asparagus is a signature springtime food, right? And I'm also going to add some dandelion greens. So I'm going to tweak the recipe just a little bit. So for right now, let's get cooking. And the first ingredient we have is the red lentils. Here is 2 cups of red lentils. And I'm in the process here of going through the red lentils and picking and sorting through the beans to see if there's any little stones or any debris that we want to get rid of. This is something that you want to do with your lentils. And I think there's a little something right here. It looks like a little kernel of something else. Not sure what that is. Not necessarily a stone, although little tiny stones can be in your beans. So when you cook with beans, this is the first step you want to do. It works really well if you have a white plate and you just put the beans on the white plate, because you can see the colors and you can see if there's any foreign substance on the white plate very nicely. So we have 2 cups of red lentils right there. And those are going into our soup pot. And I have 9 cups of water on the stove right now. Let me move you over here and I'll show you what that looks like. We're going to go towards the stove here. So here's my soup pot, and I've got 9 cups of water, and I've got it on a high temperature, and I'm going to put 2 cups of red lentils in there like so. I'm going to bring this to a boil, just the red lentils in the water, and then if any foam appears, I'm going to skim it off, and I'll show you what that looks like, okay? So if you're just tuning in, go ahead and leave a comment and say, hello, tell me where you're tuned in from. I'm in Michigan, and we are having a beautiful day today. It is approximately 57 degrees, so we're almost 60. and the sun is trying to come out. And so that's a wonderful spring day. So as the red lentils are coming to a boil, let me tell you about the next ingredient, which is the sea vegetable kombu. Have you used kombu before? Do you know what it is? You can leave a comment in the chat, or if you're watching this video on replay, have you had kombu? What do you think of it? This is a sea vegetable. This is an actual plant that grows in the ocean. It's called kombu. You get it in the stores and it comes dry. So this is dry. Being that it's dried, it's non-perishable, and guess what? It will last forever, so it'll never go bad. Sea vegetables are the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. Yes, you heard me right. The most nutrient-dense food on the planet. Iron, calcium, vitamin C. They have trace minerals and minerals. They have the ability to cleanse toxins out of your system. All of our ancestors ate sea vegetables because they knew how nutrient dense they were. They knew that if they picked them from the ocean and they dried them, then they would last forever. And so they could carry this food, this very small food that's very lightweight, and they could carry it with them as they walked across long distances, because they didn't have cars back then. And when they wanted to eat this, all they had to do was just add some water and they could eat it. Now, in particular, you always want to cook your beans with a small piece of kombu. Beans help to strengthen your intestinal tract. They help to break down the high protein content of the bean, make the bean more digestible, therefore eliminating gas. That's what kombu is used for, okay? All right, so the beans are starting to boil now. And what happens when you boil beans? You get like this white foam on top. You can see that white foam, right? So you're going to want to skim that off. That white foam is actually part of the gas that some people experience when they eat beans. So you just skim it off. I've got this little skimmer here. You just skim it off like so. Now, red lentils are legumes. They're small beans. And because they're small beans, they're easier to digest, and you don't get as much gas as, per se, if you were eating a kidney bean or a larger bean, okay? So that's pretty good. We got the foam skimmed off there. That's kind of all we need to do. All right, so we are going to add this little piece of kombu right into the pot. I'm not going to do anything with the kombu besides adding it. I'm going to cook the soup, and then the lentils are going to get soft. The vegetables are going to get soft. That piece of kombu is going to get soft, and it's probably going to get to the point where it's so soft, it's just going to fall apart. Or I can break it apart and just put it back in the soup. It's going to be in the soup. You're going to get all the nutritional value of it. You're not even going to know it's there. Now, if it irritates you and you don't particularly like it, you don't want to break it up and put it back in the soup, you can remove it. After it's boiled for a while, just remove it, and you have all the vitamins and minerals and the healing properties in the broth of the soup. So you're good to go that way. Now, if I wasn't teaching a cooking class and I was just making the soup myself, I would have all my vegetables pre-cut up and ready to go, and I would start adding the vegetables right now. But I don't. So I'm going to turn this to a low temperature, and I'm going to let this simmer as I demonstrate and teach you about all the vegetables I'm going to add to it. All right. So the red lentils are going to hang out and cook. Red lentils are high in protein. Protein is fantastic for your body. It feeds and nurtures your heart. The biggest muscle in your body is your heart. Protein is good for your muscles. Also high in calcium, potassium, iron. Fantastic for you. All right, let's chop some vegetables. So part of learning how to cook healthy, whole foods is learning how to chop vegetables. So you got to learn how to chop vegetables. So I always teach this cooking technique in my cooking classes. You put water on the cutting board, The water fills in the pores of the wood, so the wood doesn't absorb the color and the odor of the vegetable you're chopping. My cutting board never smells like onions because I always remember to have a wet cutting surface. Here are my onions that I soaked in cold water to help prevent your eyes from tearing. Soaking it in cold water also makes it easy so the skin comes off of the onion very easily. See how easily that comes off there? Just like that. Comes off like so. Onions have anti-inflammatory properties. You don't want inflammation in your system because that creates joint pains. Any type of pain in your body is inflammation, so we don't want that. We're going to put the onion on the cutting board, flat side down, and we're going to chop it going with the lines like so. And then we're going to turn the onion and we're going to chop this way. That gives you diced onion. Onion is pungent when it's raw, but then when it's cooked, it becomes a beautiful sweet flavor. So by putting in the onion in the soup, we are going to impart this beautiful sweet onion flavor into the soup, right? Okay, we'll do the other half of the onion. Now, springtime, you could use leeks, you could use scallions, all in the onion family, all great for you. Cut it like so. All right, so if you're just tuning in, I'm making a springtime red lentil soup featuring red lentils, asparagus, dandelion greens, and some fresh grated turmeric because we're cooking for the spring season. All right, feeding and nurturing our liver, our gallbladder, our nervous system. Now, I am going to go ahead and put these one onion into the soup pot and continue the soup pot cooking. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and or in the comments below if you're watching this video later. Okay. This recipe is out of my Perceptions in Healthy Cooking cookbook. I'm going to dice 3 carrots. So I'm going to chop off the ends because those are usually dried out like so. I get asked in cooking classes a lot, I'm not peeling my carrots. No, I don't peel my carrots. These are organic carrots. Most of the vitamins and minerals are located right underneath the skin. So by organic, you don't have to peel them. You don't have to peel carrots. So they don't, the skin is the same texture as the carrot. So there's really no reason to peel them. I'm going to cut the carrot in half and cut it into 3 pieces. And then I'm going to cut this one in half. And I'm going to cut it like so. And then I'm going to dice the carrots like so. So what do you think? Do you like chopping vegetables? Do you like being in the kitchen? I love chopping vegetables. But then I've been chopping vegetables since, well, professionally, since I was 17 years old. So I guess it becomes kind of second nature to me to just chop the vegetables. So we're going to do 3 carrots that way. I'm going to dice them like so. So if you're watching this video, whether you're watching it live or maybe you're watching the recording afterwards, please share the video, like the video, tell a friend about the video. I plan on going live every Tuesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to have some special guests cooking with me in the future. Some other plant-based, organic, vegan professionals. And I've also had my friend Patricia Becker on the show. She's a yoga teacher. She did some yoga poses with us, and that was a lot of fun. I really liked that. All right. here we are chopping the carrots, like so. Carrots, good source of potassium. Potassium is very important in your diet to maintain healthy blood pressure. Also contain vitamin C and calcium. That's our carrot. Here is 3 carrots diced going into the soup pot. Let me show you the soup pot, and let me tell you about how to make a gourmet soup, a soup that's absolutely delicious, that all of your friends will be amazed and they'll say, oh, your soup is so delicious. All right. So, and I use this technique when I create any and all soups that I make, unless it's a pureed soup, then I guess it doesn't matter so much. So we start the soup pot with water. We bring the water up to a boil. We add the first thing. In this particular instance, it was red lentils. We bring the water back up to a boil. We add the next ingredient, which would be onions. We bring the water back up to a boil. We add the next ingredients, which would be carrots. Why are we doing that? Why are we bringing the water back up to a boil? That seals in and locks in the individual flavor of each individual vegetable. So your end product has a much more flavor, much more individualized flavor. You can really taste the carrots. You can really taste the celery. You can taste the individual components. This is a gourmet way of making a soup. And I use this technique all the time when I make my soups. For 26 years, this is how I've taught it. And I can tell you that my students have come back and given me feedback saying it makes a difference. It really does. The flavor of your soup is so much more individualized and so much more nicer and prominent when that's going on. All right. So I'm just checking here what's going on with the live feed. Going on all right. So I'm just, oh, awesome. All right. I'm just checking Facebook and YouTube to make sure that the live feed is going through. Have to do that every once in a while. All right. So if you're tuning in and watching this, I'm making a spring red lentil soup, and I'm changing the recipe just a little bit because, well, it's my recipe and I felt like changing it because I wanted to add my favorite vegetable to this soup, and that's asparagus. So let me show you asparagus here. Meanwhile, I'm going to let the soup continue to cook, and here is some beautiful asparagus, and it's organic. Yum. Asparagus is one of the signature vegetables of springtime. So it's really good for your liver, helps cleanse out your liver. It's really good for your gallbladder. And so it's got that wonderful, fresh, uplifting energy of the springtime. Asparagus. They say when you got asparagus, you go like this and it'll break off where it's supposed to break off, because this part of the asparagus is very fibrous and it's not necessarily good to chew. It's very fibrous. So you can go through and break all of them like that if you want. Sometimes to save on time, I just take a bunch of them like so, put them on the cutting board, and just approximation, it's approximately 1 cup. That's 1 inch. I'm just going to hack off 1 inch of the asparagus, and we'll compost that. And I'm going to cut the asparagus in like 1/4 inch pieces because I want the asparagus to fit on my spoon, on my soup spoon when I go to eat this later on. So I'm ad-libbing this recipe, and I'm adding approximately, that was approximately 10 spears, which I would guess would be a little over 1 cup of asparagus. I'm going to put that in the soup, like so. There we go. Again, I've got the soup pot on a medium-high heat because I want it to come back up to a boil now that I've added the asparagus. Wait for it to come back up to a boil. And then I'm going to do my celery. All right. We have 3 stalks of organic celery. Celery is fantastic for your heart and your brain. It has a high water content, helps keep your body hydrated, cleanse toxins out of your system, adds a beautiful green color, but also a little bit of a crunch to the soup, because even though you cook the vegetables and everything, celery still holds up and has a little bit of a crunch. I'm going to take the celery and I'm going to cut it in slits like so, and then we're going to dice it. So we line it up like this, and we chop. Like so. There we go. Now we're also going to add some garlic into the soup. Yum. Right. There is our 3 stalks of celery. Right. The soup is not at a boil yet. All right. So because it's not at a boil, I'm going to continue to chop some vegetables. We have 4 garlic cloves. The best way to get the skin off of garlic is to put it on the cutting board and smash it just like that. Just like that. Smash it. Okay. Cut it like that. Smash it. And the skin comes right off. Very nice, just like that. Now, the garlic has a little end on it, like that. I want to cut that off. That's like dried out, so we get rid of that. And then what do we do to chop the garlic? We want to mince it. So let's make sure we got water on the cutting board. I don't want my cutting board to smell like garlic, right? Right. Put the garlic in the middle and just start chopping it until you get small pieces. Like so. And then I keep just piling it in the middle like this, and I keep just chopping it until I get small, minced garlic. Like so. Okay. Let's go back to the stove. The soup's up at a boil now. You can add some more vegetables to it. I am going to take the minced garlic and put it right into the soup pot, just like so. All right. We have a beautiful boil going right now. Let me see, can you see it? Let's see if I can look at that beautiful boil. So we can add the celery, just like this. Now, the last few ingredients we have is some dandelion greens and some corn. Dandelion greens and corn don't need to cook as long as the red lentils and the vegetables. So I'm actually going to turn the temperature down. We don't need to keep this at a rapid boil. We just need to keep it at a simmer now, and it's going to simmer for approximately 15 minutes. I might try and speed up the process because I'm teaching it to you. But if you were at home and you were relaxed and everything, give this 15 minutes to cook the asparagus and the carrots and the lentils, and before you add the corn and the dandelion greens. Okay, so that's up to you. You know, like I said, when I'm teaching and everything, I'm in a time constraint. But when you're at home, just put it at a simmer and let it just simmer, right? So today I'm making a springtime red lentil soup featuring asparagus, and I'm going to do some fresh grated turmeric that's going to get added also, and some dandelion greens. So this is out of my Perceptions in Healthy Cooking cookbook. And I was saying at the beginning of the video, I came out with the revised edition of the cookbook, which is right here. And the original version, don't laugh, this one right here, because I have so many notes in here and everything. Now, the original version had me seasoning it with some mellow miso, and the new version had me seasoning it with some sea salt. So those are two different options you can use with the soup. Today I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of mellow miso in it. I like the mellow miso, especially in springtime, because our signature flavor is sour. And so because miso is a naturally fermented food, it has a slight sour flavor to it. And so whenever you ferment food, you have a slightly sour flavor. You also have a slightly bitter flavor. And miso itself is salty. It's your salty condiment. In fact, let me tell you about miso here while we're waiting for the soup to cook. All right, so a lot of people ask, what is miso? It is a salty condiment, right? So it's what you use to season the soup, or if you're making sauces or whatever, it's a salty condiment. It is made from soybeans that have been naturally fermented, which means they mix the soybeans with sea salt, they put weight on top of it, and they let it sit and ferment. The darker the miso, the longer it's fermented. The lighter the miso, the less time it's fermented. So today we're going to use a mellow miso, so it hasn't been fermented as long. Fermented food is full of enzymes, amino acids, helps aid in digestion, lactobacillic acid. That's what's in miso, okay? The soybean itself is high in B vitamins, it's high in calcium, it's high in iron, it's high in protein. Soybeans are fantastic for your eyes. They give your body vitality. And the most important thing about soybeans and soy food is they have anti-cancer properties. Anti-cancer properties. So miso is traditionally put into miso soup. And maybe you have heard, or maybe you know someone who has healed themselves starting with the miso soup every day. So if you're going to start your journey on eating healthy, and if you have a health condition, I'm going to recommend that you start making miso soup every day and eat a little bit of it every day because of all the health benefits that it has. It also cleanses toxins out of your system. Miso is so strong, it can clean radiation out of your system and other environmental toxins also. So miso is an incredibly healthy food, fantastic for you. And we are going to use the mellow miso. So go to the health food store. You're going to find it in the refrigerated section. This is a company called Miso Master. Miso Master is a wonderful company that makes miso on a regular basis. This one here, let me show you the color. This is because it's mellow. It's a light colored miso. The light colored miso does not have a strong salty flavor as the dark miso. The dark miso is more salty, just so you know, okay? And so when you buy the miso, just like when you buy any product, any food product, you got to read the ingredients. So we have organic whole soybeans. Very important. When you buy foods that have soybeans in them, they must be organic because unfortunately they have genetically modified the soybean crop. But if it's organic, they can't have it genetically modified. Homemade rice koji. So koji is the fermenting agent that's in there that ferments the soybeans to create the miso. And sea salt and well water. That's what's in it. Check the soup. It's just hanging out, boiling. So what you don't want in miso would be any type of sweetener whatsoever. Sugar, high fructose corn syrup, nothing like that. And so I actually was shopping in an Oriental store recently, and I was looking at the ingredients of their miso, and some of them actually had sugar in them. And I was also looking at the ingredients of their umeboshi plums, and they had fried high fructose corn syrup in their umeboshi plums. So that was very disheartening because it should just, it's a salty condiments, and all that should be in there is the product and the salt. Yep. All right. So we are making springtime red lentil soup featuring asparagus and dandelion greens. So let's work on the dandelion greens. Dandelion greens. They are not a weed. They are a nutrient-dense, healthy food that everybody should be eating. Yes, they are the actual yellow flowers that grow in your lawn. But usually if you buy organic dandelion greens from the store, they're grown in a garden, and so they're mass produced. But if you don't spray your lawn, if you have an organic lawn, you can go out there and pick the leaves, and you can eat them. I did that last summer and the year before. I don't spray my grass at all. I haven't in years. The flowers are also edible, although I don't like the flavor of the flowers. And a lot of people boil the flowers. You can drink the tea. A lot of people make jam. And I've been asked that a lot because it's like this big thing, dandelion jam. The flowers are bitter. They are really bitter to the taste. So the process is that they boil the flowers, and then they strain it, and then they add a huge amount of sugar. And if you know me at all, you know I am like, don't eat sugar. Sugar is like, it's not even food. It's a chemical. But in order to compensate for the extremely bitter flavor of the dandelion flowers, they have to add an ungodly amount of sugar. We don't want to do that. So no sugar. And so I get asked that question a lot, though, about the dandelion jam that's made with the flowers. Just not a fan of that. But the greens I absolutely adore. Now remember that these greens are bitter to the taste. So you don't need a lot. Don't put a lot in your soup. You're going to overpower the beautiful sweetness of all the other vegetables. You don't want your end product to be bitter. You want your end product to be sweet, savory, salty, sour. You actually want to have all 5 flavors in there, which this soup is going to have all 5. But the predominant flavor that most humans like and want is sweet. And we have accomplished that by putting the carrots in there, the onions, and we're going to put some delicious organic corn in there, all of which are going to make the soup slightly sweet. So let's work with the dandelion greens right here. So for this recipe, I'm only going to put a 1/4 cup of minced dandelion greens in there. That's all we need. Let me get my 1/4 cup measure cup here. Here's a 1/4 cup. So I like, if I'm going to use a 1/4 cup in my soup, I actually like using more of the leaf and less of the stem. I save the stems for making tea. Okay, I make dandelion tea. So there we go here. My YouTube channel, since you're watching this on YouTube and Facebook, if you haven't checked out my YouTube channel yet, I have all kinds of videos about dandelion greens, kale, leafy greens, just how-to informational videos where I talk about the nutritional value of it and other things like that. So there's a lot of great information to look for on my YouTube channel. So I have predominantly the beautiful greens. The stems I'm going to set aside and use those later. I'm just going to chop this. Chop it and then just keep chopping it into small pieces. So here's my trick with putting leafy greens into a recipe. I take the greens, whether it's dandelion greens, kale, collards, parsley, whatever, If you chop it up into really small pieces and put it into the dish, you are getting minced greens all through the dish. And you can put minced greens like this into everything you eat. And so you don't need to go overboard and put a lot of minced greens in anything, because again, that flavor is bitter and most people are not going to like that bitter flavor. So if you just put a little bit in there, getting all the health benefits, quarter cup, without being, overpowered with the bitter flavor. All right. We just clean this up here, and then we're going to add the dandelion greens and the corn to the soup. Hey, this is real-time cooking, This means that everything is being cooked within an hour. So this is a soup that you could create at home in an hour. All right, let's move back over to the stove. Take a look at the soup. It's been hanging out simmering all this time. I have it at a slightly higher temperature because, again, I'm trying to get the soup done in the allotted time, all the while demonstrating the soup also. All right, so now we're going to add that quarter cup of dandelion greens. And I have 2 cups of frozen organic corn. Yum, 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 yum. I adore corn, especially in the summertime when I can get corn on the cob. I love that. So corn is not your favorite vegetable. Corn is one of the signature whole grains of summertime, which means it feeds and nurtures your brain and your heart. It is ever so slightly sweet, so it's going to beautiful sweetness going through the soup with that corn. It also contains vitamin A, very good for your eyes. Because it's a complex carbohydrate, it's a whole grain, not a vegetable. Corn will give you energy. In fact, corn is one of the high energy whole grains because it's one of the whole grains of summertime. Summer is when we need to have lots of energy because we're going outside, we're doing all kinds of things. We need lots of energy. That's what summer food does, imparts lots of energy. Okay. All right, I'm going to let the corn and the dandelion greens hang out for just a couple minutes in the soup pot as it's boiling. All right, so if you're watching the video on replay, go ahead and put a comment below and tell me where you're tuned in from. If you have any questions about this recipe, I can answer those questions. And I also would appreciate any likes or shares. And also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate that. So this recipe in the original Perceptions cookbook, which the original version is, this is my original version that I've been using and taking notes and changing recipes and everything. We have 1 teaspoon of turmeric and 1 teaspoon of cumin. I like cumin. It gives it a nice, mellow, kind of warming, yet not overpowering. It doesn't burn your taste buds. It's very nice. So cumin's in there and turmeric. I adore turmeric, but I love fresh turmeric. The dried turmeric is completely fine. So if you have 1 teaspoon of dried turmeric, that's what you're going to season the soup with. However, I have fresh grated turmeric that I always have on hand in my freezer because I buy the fresh turmeric root and I grate it up and I put it in my freezer. If you want to learn more about turmeric and how I work with turmeric and how do you do that, go back through my videos and you can watch the video on turmeric. I also have a Patreon group, which is a subscription cooking channel where I have many videos where I use fresh grated turmeric. But for now, let me show you what it looks like. Here is the fresh grated turmeric. The fresh turmeric smells so wonderful. Has not been cooked. So the dried turmeric that you buy from the store has been boiled and then they dry it. Okay. This one has not. The medicinal properties of the fresh turmeric is stronger than the dried, although the dried turmeric still has medicinal properties. I don't want you to discard it or not use it if that's all you have on hand. Still has medicinal properties. Turmeric is the strongest anti-inflammatory food on the planet. Did you hear me? The strongest anti-inflammatory food on the planet. Anytime you have inflammation, turmeric is your go-to. Really good for your digestion, your intestinal tract. If you ever have that problem where you have holes in your gut, like leaky gut, turmeric will help fix that. It's amazing. I love the flavor and I love the smell. Now, I will let you know that when you work with fresh turmeric root, everything will be stained. Your fingers, your cutting board, your knife, everything's going to get stained with the turmeric. But it doesn't last. Your fingers will eventually come back to the correct color. But I learned that when I first started working with fresh grated turmeric. And yes, after you grate it, you can put it in the freezer. Like I said just a few minutes ago, I always have fresh grated turmeric in my freezer ready to go. Whether I'm going to use it for healing purposes or I'm going to use it to season things like this delicious soup. Okay? All right, now it's time to season the soup, right? Let me show you. Here we go. Got this beautiful simmer going on, right? Just going to get a fork, and we're going to take a look at this. Look at those beautiful colors. Corn, asparagus, celery. So if I want to see if the vegetables are soft, I take a fork. Oh my God, the asparagus is just soft and beautiful. Now, and the dandelion greens, that's all in there. Remember that piece of kombu that we threw in there at the beginning of the class? Well, here, let me find that piece of kombu. I'll pull it out of here and show you what it looks like. Hello, piece of kombu. I saw you just a moment ago. Where are you? Piece of kombu. Hello. I'm calling the kombu out of the pot. Hello, kombu. Where? Oh my gosh, there it is. All right, so this is it right here. Now, again, at the beginning of the video, I told you have options. You can chop that up into small pieces and put it back in there, which I'm going to do. You can remove it and just eat the soup now like this because a lot of the medicinal properties and all the vitamins and minerals, it's all in the soup broth now. You could have also, if you want to, you could just eat this. Sometimes I do that when I make a soup or when I cook beans or something. I just pull the kombu out and then I just eat it myself. Lots of different options that you can do. I turn the heat off. If you're going to season your soup with miso, you need to turn the heat off. Miso, again, is full of enzymes, amino acids, and if you put it into boiling water, you will kill the enzymes, which we don't want to do. All right, so here I have 1 teaspoon of cumin, and I have 1.5 teaspoons of sea salt. Because the miso, the mellow miso, is not quite enough seasoning, so I add a little bit of sea salt. Here's our 1 tablespoon of beautiful fresh grated turmeric root. That's going in there. This is 2 tablespoons of mellow miso that I've put in a measuring cup. This is how you add miso to a soup. You have to take some of the hot broth. You have to pour it over the miso like so. And then you take a fork and you squish the miso. You dissolve the miso in the hot broth like so. Just like that. Dissolve it. And then you pour it back into the soup, just like that. And that's how you work with miso. That's how you season your miso soup. And now we mix everything together. I usually like to let my soup hang out for about 5 minutes so all the flavors start to meld in there. They start to come together before I actually eat it. All right, there we go. I will show you what it looks like in a bowl. It's oh so colorful. Spring is a colorful season outside, right? So your food should reflect that beautiful color when you eat it. Springtime red lentil soup with asparagus, dandelion greens, fresh turmeric, mellow miso. It's all in there. All right. So thank you so much for joining me today on my live. Remember, every Tuesday, 3:00, I'm going to be going live, sharing a recipe, teaching you how to cook certain foods. And I'm also going to have some special guests cooking with me and sharing their journey of healthy living, health tips, things like that. My website is macroval.com. You can check out my cookbooks there. You can check out all my upcoming cooking classes. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember, your journey to eating healthy begins with one small step. Let's make that small step my springtime red lentil soup.